Welcome to the Lions Den, and I have with me the president of the York chapter of the NAACP, Miss Sherry Washington. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Good evening. I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I understand that you're at the NAACP convention. Are you able to share with us what the agenda is of the convention?
Oh, yes, I'm down here for the 109th annual convention. There is, you know, the biggest agenda is fighting for our rights and countering everything that 45, 47 is doing. Um, Today was a long day because we had 93 pages of resolutions, but it was a good day because we forged forward and got them all either passed or put on pause, but it was a good day.
Um, as I mentioned to you before we went live, yesterday I was speaking with Jane Elliott, and one of the things that I had mentioned to her was, in my opinion, that I felt like in the civil rights movement,
Mhm.
with the bus boycott, sanitation boycott, after we signed the Civil Rights Act, or after we had it signed, President Johnson, um, I feel like we got comfortable as a people and we kind of took our foot off the pedal. You should have been mashing it even more. Um, and we kind of got comfortable and even more comfortable. And I think because of that, we're in the situation that we are in now. And I think we're a sneeze away from losing our right to vote if the wrong people have their way. Um,
What do
your
you
opinion
mean?
on that?
Tell me what you mean when you say we got comfortable. What elaborate on that for me?
I truly believe that we should have even invested more in Black. We should have, while we did some, I think the concentration was on integration,
Mm.
um, instead of uplifting ourselves even more because we saw the benefit of how we could shut things down through peaceful protests
Hmm.
in the bus boycott and the sanitation boycott. So um, I think once we got to see some things happen, we kind of didn't worry about it as much. And now our education is suffering, you know, redlining. I mean, you name it.
Wow.
It's all bad. And it's not just 45, 47. This has been happening through a series of years upon years upon years. And they've been finally able to put it together in the way that they have now. And it's just, I don't know a single person that thinks things are good right now.
I agree with you. Things are not good. Um, so I'm speaking tonight as an NAACP president, so I got to put my personal stuff aside.
Yes, ma'am.
So I definitely do, though, feel you on the whole integration piece. I'm a lifelong educator, and I recall, when the schools weren't integrated, we weren't worrying about our children whether or not they knew how to read or write. They were reading and writing.
Hmm.
Um, but yet, 50 years later, we're still fighting for equity,
Hmm.
equitable resources in the school, equitable access to the same resources suburban schools have. We're still fighting. Brown versus Board of Education was a significant accomplishment. However, we're still not, we're still separate and not equal. We're integrated, but we're still separate and not equal. And that's
Hmm.
reality. And so, whereas, I grew up watching the boycotts and understanding the significance behind them, um, the NAACP has shifted a little bit, and the focus is on advocacy and policies. Still boycotting in some ways, but strategically. But the focus is really on advocacy and policies. I believe our current leadership, I don't believe, I know our current leadership was able to make the changes that they made because of policies. And what the NAACP has been doing is, just like we paid Thurgood Marshall back in the day to fight for the Brown versus Board of Education, we're now having lawyers file lawsuits against these policies, against the dissemination of DEI, against the dissemination of the Department of Education, against them trying to shut down the Veterans Affairs Office. So it's a game of litigation right now. But it's also a strategic process of establishing policies. So you spoke to the voting rights policy, right?
Right.
We knew forever the language in that policy. It's 2025. That language should not still be in that policy.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the resolutions today was to make that policy eradicated so we're not going through this again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we know voter suppression tactics are going to come up.
Right.
I think the big picture is, for me as a lifelong educator, is education, right?
Right.
So we focus on reading and writing and arithmetic, and what are your career plans and your post-secondary plans, but we skip over civics. We skip over that, right?
Right.
And we have this group, we have these extremes, we have these group of high schoolers who are ready to today, our youth council from New York, Brooklyn, New York, put a policy for one of the states. They shared that one of the states put a policy to change the voting age to 16. You can drive at 16. They want to vote at 16 because they feel as though there's this group of adults between the ages of 26 and 40 who aren't voting. And they don't want to see what's happening anymore. So you have these young people rising up saying, no, we're not our ancestors, but we're gonna rock it out a little different. And we're gonna advocate, and they're taking the realms. I think when we stop teaching about civics, a lot of people don't understand how we got here. They think that it's just about voting for a president. They don't take into consideration all the other offices that come into play.
Right.
Right?
Right.
We never would have had the support he had if we would have been playing chess and not checkers.
Right.
Civics is important. Folks have to realize this is not a popularity game. This is not Democrats versus Republicans. What it is let's stop focusing on being right and let's focus on doing what's right for humans. Mm-hmm. The fact that so much medical benefits are getting ready to be cut for Pennsylvanians, the fact that school budgets are getting ready to be gutted, mm-hmm. the fact that our children may not have access to free breakfasts and free lunch, for me is heart-wrenching. Mm-hmm. So can folks stop saying, oh, voting doesn't matter? If this stuff right here doesn't matter to you, I don't know what does. What's it going to take for you to realize voting does matter, right? I saw an article where he didn't like that Roseanne O'Donnell said something against something he did. He threatened her with her citizenship. We're mm-hmm. the free world threaten you with your natural born citizenship. Mm-hmm. But voting doesn't matter. I think we got to get back to the civics. And so as the president of NAACP, there's so many things in York that we're focusing on. Education for sure. And I'll talk about that a little later. We're getting ready to do with our health and women and when the Women in Network. We're going to offer some workshops on menopause, premenopause, the good, the bad, the ugly, mental health for men. We're into partnering with people. NAACP just released some great resources this week for housing and how we can address that, the economics and the entrepreneurship, helping African American businesses get certified, minority business get certified, and leverage grants to keep their business afloat. And then coming up with some type of plan to address what's getting ready to happen with the health benefits and the education. So, for example, one thing we've been sharing on our state conference level, because I also serve as the education chair for the Pennsylvania State Conference of NAACP,
Okay.
is we got it. We might have to go back to like it was with the Black Panther movement and partner with our churches and our um, grassroots organizations and serve that good old breakfast, that good old pot of grits
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
turkey sausages and a biscuit and send them on the way
Hmm.
or some cereal or we might have to get back to that. And those are things
Hmm.
we need to start thinking about, right?
Hmm.
If they were able to do that, if the Black Panthers were able to do that, because that's where the free lunch program started from. If they were able to do that back then without the government's assistance, that's what we're gonna have to get back to.
Right.
Because when our children go to school hungry, they can't learn. And so, we're having conversations with faith-based organizations and grassroots organizations. Like, okay, so what's the plan? How are we gonna do this? Because we're not sending our kids to school hungry, right?
Right.
Or and then when they're eating lunch at school, how do we help parents who can't afford to pay that lunch bill? Because
Right.
unfortunately at some schools, if a kid has a outstanding lunch bill, they get a stale cheese sandwich and some day old milk, but that's supposed to sustain them. So we have to get back to, like you said, how we take care of our own.
Mhm.
What are we going to do? And then I have people who say, oh, the sky's falling, and my response is, we come from a lineage of strong people.
Mhm.
We survived so much. We know how to make $1 out of 15 cents and,
Right.
and take a sack of potatoes and make a meal for a whole 2 months.
Right.
In the words of uh, one of our good old rappers, we're going to be all right. We're going to be
Yeah.
all right. We just got to buckle down, spend less, live below
Mhm.
your means, and really create that SUSA, that family network of family really helping family. Really having those conversations with our young people. Hey, you're working, but times are hard and you're ready to struggle. Stop eating out, save your money. Really teaching financial literacy and
Right.
really encouraging trades and entrepreneurship because you can make
Right.
money with your hands legally,
Right.
legally,
Right.
right? So those type of economic empowerment things are what we're talking about. Our first 2 months was really us just getting back in the fold and getting our executive committee together and really developing the good working relationship. These last 2 quarters, we plan on being more present in the community, having more events and showing up and listening to what our community needs, but also sharing the training that the national office has been offering in regards
Right.
to these topics, because it is about strategy. It is about strategic plan. It is about collaboration, but it's really about advocacy and policy.
One of the things I was saying to a friend of mine was that we're lacking a true leader, a true idea, something that we can focus on. Uh, we were talking about voting. I think the wrong people are getting the wrong message out when I hear somebody like Wale say on a rap song, "I don't exercise my right to vote." For me, I had a problem with him boasting about that in a rap video and a rap song. I think that sends the wrong message out. We had 92 million people not vote in the Harris Trump election, which is not a good thing. It worked against us, and it just makes me wonder if we just had half of that 92 million vote, will we be looking at a different world right now? Um,
I
I
think
actually thought having a board for lack of just one true leader, having a board where you have representatives for Black women, you have representatives for Black men, you had representatives for Black church, and and just a board, and where we can all sit down and have a retreat and really concentrate, come up with an agenda, come up with ways to, because a protest down the street is not doing anything. To me, it's not. We
uh,
need to move buildings without damaging them,
Yeah.
And I just think
How
we're
do you
not doing
how do
enough.
you do that? You tap into these young people. These young people got courage we don't have. These young people know how to use social media. These young people don't care. They want to say what they want to say, how they want to say it, when they want to say it. Too
Well,
often
we
as
can't be
older
scared of the
as
young people
elders
either.
too often as elders in the community, we want to hold on to leadership. We want to hold on to titles. And one of the things that I've always advocated for, and I definitely saw this week down here in Charlotte, these young people are ready. It is our responsibility to stand behind them and support them,
Right.
to guide them, but to build a relationship with them so that when we speak, they hear us. So
Hmm.
on our executive committee for the York NAACP, we have 5 young leaders under the age of 35 who are ready to rock and roll and are doing their own things.
Hmm.
And when we need that energy, I tap into them. It's about building them up. A lot of people ask me the history of the York NAACP has had presidents who stayed on forever. I'm not, no, 2 years, 1 year is almost up. 2 years, that's it.
Okay.
My job is to bring the next person on board. My
Right.
job is to get that young person ready. So
Right.
when I'm having meetings, that young person is right beside me. They need to know your name like they know my name.
And shouldn't our Congress be just as representative though? Like, it should be younger. There should be term limits. You have some young ladies. I heard about a young lady in Arizona on the come up that's shaking up the Democratic Party. You have his name escapes me in New York, Madami. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right, but he's shaking up the Democratic Party. And it seems like the old guard is afraid of these up and comers that have great ideas, and we don't have to agree with all of them, but it should be more representative of the kids that are coming up into their adulthood
I
and the
think it
people
is.
35
You're
like
giving me you're giving me goosebumps because I agree with you, but I think it is. I'll be double nickels in August, right? But I recall a time growing up where we were told as Black women, be quiet, be coy, be professional, be polite, right? But I've always looked up to Maxine Waters because she said what she said and didn't care. And then when
Mhm.
my girl Jasmine Crockett got on the scene,
Mhm.
love her.
Yeah, me too.
Love her because she's authentically saying what she wants to say. She's not shrinking for anyone. She's heck of intelligent
Right.
and doesn't mind politely, eloquently, professionally checking any and everybody. And I think people like her and the representative from New York, and some other young representatives, they are the folks who are inspiring these young people to be you. Speak up. You got something to say it. Say it with your chest.
Right.
Our ancestors didn't die for you to be quiet. Speak up.
Right.
And that's what we have to encourage. In our culture, we raised our kids, be seen and not heard. We got to stop that bull crap. That's why we in the predicament we in.
Right.
I believe starting at the age of 5, we should create these relationships with our children, with young people where, and even in the classroom, you're giving them an opportunity to say what's on their mind. And you're helping them frame that correctly, giving them an opportunity to think independently. Stop listening to what the rappers are saying. Stop listening to what your old friends are saying. What do you think? How is this impacting you? Because guess what? When old boy did that loop, plashed that big, beautiful bill, and said the Pell Grant money is going to go back to $5,326 versus $7,395. Oh boy, he done woke up the college kids. They get ready to vote him out of there. Them college
Exactly.
kids are not happy. And the fact that they have to now carry 15 credits, and if you drop a credit, you lose your Pell Grant if you fail. Oh, that his actions have acted as a catalyst for these young people. So that group between 29 and 40 who are listening to Wale, oh, I'm not exercising. We can't save everybody. Like Harriet said, she could have saved more people if they would have realized they were slaves. We can't save them. Let them rock out. Okay.
Right.
We're gonna focus on these young people. That's how we move. That's how we move this agenda
Right.
by
We
empowering and supporting. these young people.
We got Westmore in Baltimore doing great
I
things for the state of Maryland.
love
We got the
Westmore.
Brother Joneses in Tennessee and the state legislature doing great things. And I just would love to see more, and you mentioned Jasmine Crockett. I love to see more of our people get in there and mix it up and be loud and put the foot in the sand so we can see them and recognize them because that's what's going to motivate the youth to get out there and say, I could do this too.
You're right. Now I'm going to shout out a few people in Harrisburg because in this position, I said I don't like politics, but in this position, they had me lobbying left and right. So I'm going to shout out a few good people. Of course, starting with Representative Carol Evans. Now she's our
Yes.
Jasmine Crockett. She's going to say what's on her mind. And if you don't like it, too bad. But she's authentic. She's a
I've
supporter.
had her on the show, on this podcast.
She's phenomenal. She is the reason why she was one of the advocates when the NAACP filed that lawsuit against Pennsylvania Department of Education for underfunding urban and rural districts. And that lawsuit took 10 years and we won in 2024. She was the reason behind ensuring that the urban schools receive their reparations.
Right.
That was Carol Hill Evans. In York County, when these grants come out, these secretive grants, right? She is the reason that it gets out to our people that, hey, these secretive grants are out here again. Y'all better go apply for them. And she gives us the language of what we need to do to apply for them. She's making sure we know what's going on. But the other folks in Harrisburg who are doing some good things, of course, oh my gosh, I'm having a blank. Vincent Hughes. When the Lincoln University did not get their money, and those kids walked from Lincoln to Harrisburg, and it was like, Miss Wash. I said, what's up? We need you at Harrisburg to help us lobby. I ain't never lobbied a day in my life, but I'll be there. Vincent Hughes was right there with us. Representative Napoleon Nelson. He was instrumental in ensuring that the Science of Reading bill was passed, because in the state of Pennsylvania, we stopped teaching phonics in 1970. Yeah, that's why that reading score is real low. It's not about the urban schools. Schools had the flexibility to teach reading how they wanted to teach it. But in the state of Mississippi, 10 years ago, they realized this was the issue, and they devised this plan, and they adopted the science of reading and said, we're going to only teach reading from a scientific point of view. That's phonics, phonemic awareness, fluency. There's a science to teaching reading, right? Mississippi 10 years ago was the third lowest scores in America. Last year, they had the third highest. So we have this Pennsylvania Literacy Council, who the NAACP we partner with, the Pennsylvania State Conference and our branches. And we participated on the panel. We lobbied, and Representative Napoleon Hill, who is the chair of the Pennsylvania Black Caucus, was instrumental in helping us lobby and getting that passed, because that's going to be the key to ensuring that all students can learn how to read effectively, and we're not just skipping and over and picking and choosing, how we teach reading. Right. Representative Justin Fleming, he was also instrumental in helping to pass that. Representative Latasha Mays, phenomenal in helping us ensure that the awareness of Black women losing their lives during birth and bringing in the collaboration of doulas was important. That's another issue we worked with NAACP. And then, of course, I cannot forget, Representative Gina Curry and Representative Jordan A. Harris. He was the man who really helped us bring it home and expose the inequities in funding for our beloved HBCU. Mm-hmm. When the state had whispers of trying to shut down Cheney, we called Representative Jordan A. Harris. He shut it down. we made it known to Governor Shapiro that Pennsylvania allowed Cheney University, the first HBCU to be shut down, we would be on their heels. We're not going to do that.
These stories are not on a more bigger scale. I read a story on a hip hop website about a black man being beaten down by three white guys, and they were all locked up. They eventually gave the guy bail that was getting the beat down, but I have to read about it on a hip hop website.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how come these stories are not more out there in the front?
They're not. And then you have Senator Art Haywood. If you can check out his website, he did a phenomenal job of going out to all the Pennsylvania colleges and gathering the stories from the Black and brown students on how they were being treated. Go read that report. And then he held them accountable by putting forth legislation. And we hold them accountable. We hold these schools accountable. Those schools like Shippensburg, Bloomsburg, we hold them accountable. So it's about advocacy, and it's about legislation, and it's about policy.
Mm-hmm.
If we would have had policies in place back in the day, what has happened would not have been able to take place. I think we were too caught up in, sometimes as our people, we get caught up in the notoriety, the fame and the glitz and glory of being the spokesperson, but the boycotting, the walking, the marching, we gotta have policy. You can march, but where's the policy?
Mm-hmm.
Even though the NAACP cannot come out and say we support the boycotting of Target, we do support spending our money correctly in places that like us. That's our language, right? But you will see us like tomorrow. Dr. Jamal Bryant will be there, and of course he's going to bring up the Target thing, and he can, but it's how we approach things differently. And so there were a lot of resolutions were passed. I think the biggest recommitment is us making sure that we are fighting for the civil rights and equities of all Black and brown people. We are disrupting and tearing down the barriers. We are holding people accountable. And we are advocating for policy and legislation.
Final question. With the fight for policy and legislation, when you have your Byron Donalds, your Tim Scotts,
Mm-hmm.
on the lower scale, your Candace Owens and your Stephen A. Smiths, but on a larger scale, your Clarence Thomases.
Mm.
How do we make sure that we win these battles, not just fight them? When you have so many people working against us.
It's not going to be an overnight sensation. I believe they were able to do what they did because they had a plan. Project 2025 was a plan.
Mm-hmm.
It was a plan that was put together 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so we take a page out of their book, we come up with strategic plans. And I solely believe the key to enacting our strategic plan lies in the palm of these young people.
Mm-hmm.
These young people who are fed up and tired. Think back to when they had that one mass shooting at the school and the children marched on Washington. And the young Black sister said, in 4 years, we're going to be able to vote. And we're going to remember who didn't vote
Mm-hmm.
to protect us. And we're going to vote you out your seats.
Mm-hmm.
The time has come. The time has come.
Ms. Washington, I appreciate you for your time. I know you're busy at the conference again, and hope to have you back and continue this conversation whenever
Anytime.
you're available.
Anytime.
I appreciate it. You
Next
have a
time it'll
good
be in
night.
person, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
All right.
ma'am. So we will talk to you soon then, and you enjoy your conference and get some rest.
Thank you so much. You have a good one.
You also. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye-bye.